Sign language interpretation proceedings is available to watch on Parliament Live TV. We now start with questions of Prime Minister Tommy Shepherd.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Prime Minister.
With Graham Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure colleagues from around the House will want to join me in congratulating England on last night.
Go fuck yourself. Go Wales!
Commending Wales for inspiring millions.
Oh, fuck off.
And also wishing everyone a happy St Andrew's Day.
What?
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial...
Don't wish anyone a happy day.
In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings
What were you
later
doing,
today.
this
Tommy Shepherd.
Ball ache.
In 2014, his predecessor, David Cameron, signed up to the Smith Commission, which promised, amongst other things, that nothing in its report would prevent Scotland becoming an independent country should the people of Scotland so choose. Can I ask the Prime Minister, does he share that view? And if he does, and in light of last week's Supreme Court judgment, will he bring forward legislation to allow that choice to be exercised?
Willy fuck.
Mr. Speaker, we did have that conversation not so many years ago. It was described as a once-in-a-generation
No, it wasn't.
But,
No, it wasn't.
And we discussed this last week. I think
Lot
what
legislated
the people of
as
Scotland want is for us to be
once-in-a-generation.
working constructively
Good afternoon, Richard.
together
Hello, Duke.
to focus on their priorities.
Rishi
That's indeed
Snake,
what we're
you
doing
almighty
in his own
cockwomble.
area, investing
General election
hundreds of
now.
millions of pounds in a growth deal and ensuring that with a new concert hall we can enshrine Edinburgh's reputation as a city of culture.
Sir Paul
If you're there, it'll be a city of culture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've just returned from the South Pacific and I found there a deep...
I've just flown in from Paris. I've just flown in. I've just flown in from Paris. I've flown in on my private jet from Tahiti on the other side of the planet. I've just flown in. Oh, look at
I
me.
resisted the all-black jokes, Mr. Speaker, but I found there a deep concern at the expanding tentacles of communist China.
What about
Would
your
my right honourable
tentacles, you
friend agree
horrible
with me
tentacle
that
monster?
China is more than just, as he put it, a systemic challenge, but in fact an expanding,
so
serious
Tory, doesn't he?
geopolitical threat.
boy.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, China is indeed a country with fundamentally different values to ours and an authoritarian leadership intent on
what like
reshaping the
you?
international
What like
order,
you
but
want
actions
here
speak
in the
louder than
UK?
words. And that's why
Authoritarian
we
leadership.
passed the new National Security and Investment Act. Just recently, we used that act to block the sale of Newport Wafer Fab. And this week, with our announcement of Sizewell C, we ensured that China's state-owned Nuclear Energy Corporation will no longer be a part of the project. This government making sure that we protect our country's security.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? Oh, we lost the feed. Oh, that's no good, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what's happening. Look, I've got the little circle of doom.
Now comes the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer.
Okay, right, let's do this. It is Wednesday, the 30th of November,
May I join the Prime
2022.
Minister in saying, well done,
One of the
England.
last
And I hope we
PMQs
can
of the
say
year,
that
this
next
now.
week and the week after. Commiserations to Wales, so I'm sure we'll be back in the World Cup tournament before too long. And of course, Mr. Speaker, we mark that tomorrow is World AIDS Day. Mr. Speaker, Winchester College has a rowing club, a rifle club,
Yep,
an
subsidised by the
extensive
state.
art collection. They
Subsidised by the
charge over
state.
£45,000 a year in fees. Why did he hand them nearly £6 million of taxpayers' money this year in what his Levelling Up Secretary calls egregious state support?
What the fuck? Oh, you cunt!
I'm pleased he wants to talk about schools.
Oh,
He recently
you
announced
fucking
billions more funding
arsehole!
for our schools.
6
We're
million
helping millions
to
of
his
the
old
most
school.
disadvantaged children
6
catch up with their
million
lost learning.
taxpayers' money.
And we're
He
driving
owns
up school
he
standards,
owns over
Mr. Speaker.
700 million
During
pounds,
COVID,
and he
during
just took
COVID,
6
he wanted
million
to
to
keep
pay.
schools
Oh,
closed.
fuck off! Oh
You
my
shouldn't be
God!
surprised because
What a
I
fucking
listen to
rat bag!
parents and
Did
he
you hear
listens
that?
to his union
£6
paymaster.
million of our money given to his old fucking cunt farm of a school.
His Levelling Up Secretary, I see him
Fuck
down
me
there, who,
sideways.
after all, was Education Secretary for 4 years, said you could scarcely find a better way of ending burning injustices than scrapping these handouts. And here's why, and he talks about driving up standards. Just down the road in Southampton, and he'll know this, 4 in every 10 pupils failed their English or Maths GCSE this year. 4 in 10. is that £6 million of taxpayers' money better spent on rifle ranges in Winchester or driving up standards in Southampton?
Yeah, come on.
Well,
Come on, you
Mr.
filth.
Speaker,
Come on, you
he
fucker.
talks about school
Come on, you
standards.
almighty fucking
It's
cunt. Come on, answer the question.
It's under a Conservative government, and
That
thanks
what,
to
schools
the
are failing?
reforms of
Schools
the
have been
former
failing for the
Education
last 12
Secretary,
fucking years.
That now
Go on.
almost 90% of schools are good or outstanding.
What? You mean the league tables and the
Mr.
Ofsted
Speaker,
reports that the
whenever-
Labour government set up?
Mr. Speaker, whenever he attacks me about where I went to school, he is attacking the hard-working aspiration.
Oh,
of millions
fuck
of
off!
people in
No,
this
he's attacking
country.
private schools, mate. Fucking cunt farms.
Attacking
7% of the population, 99% of the fucking
This is a
power.
country that believes
Gobshite.
in opportunity, not resentment.
Fuck off.
He doesn't understand
Fuck
that,
off.
and that's why he's not fit to
Fuck
lead.
off. He's attacking, the majority, of aspirational people.
Mr. Speaker, if
Buying
he
new-
thinks the
building a new
route
school with
to
that money.
better education in this country is tax breaks for private schools in
Yeah.
the hope they might hand that sum down to state school, that's laughable. Trickle-down education is nonsense.
Trickle-down education, that's what we
Mr.
have in this
Speaker,
country.
it's not just the Levelling Up Secretary. His education minister sitting there asks, how much better would it be if Conservatives got rid of these handouts? He talks about his record. It's simple. He can carry on being pushed around by the lobbyists, giving away £1.7 billion to private schools every year, or we can put that money to good use. End the
Private
Tory
schools.
scandal. He talks about his record. Hundreds of thousands of children leaving school without the qualifications that they need. I've made my choice. What's his?
Prime Minister.
I'm going to fund the
Mr.
private
Speaker,
schools.
we're improving
We're
school
going to
standards
remain
for
in charge
every
forever and
pupil
ever
in
and
this
ever.
country.
Every pupil.
It's our
You fucking
reforms that are
liar.
leading to
You're
us
letting
marching up the P's and
93% of the
reading,
pupils
for
down.
writing. More good
Not
and
giving them
outstanding
fucking
schools,
checks
more
for 6 million
investment
to
in
pay
every
on,
single school.
spend
But
on
he talks
rifle
about
rangers.
choice. This is about supporting aspiration, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, it's about
And that's
supporting
what this government is
aspiration.
proud to
Right,
do.
aspiration. So if you're earning 27,000 a year,
Mr. Speaker,
no
he
chance
really
of paying
does
the
need to get out
fees
more.
of a school that's 45,000
He
a year.
talks about
How is that
aspiration.
aspirational?
Mr. Speaker,
How is that
they
aspirational?
are killing off aspiration
My
in this
aspiration
country.
is for
and it's not just education.
us to have a
Why is
meritocracy.
the dream of home ownership far more remote now than it was when his party came into power 12 years ago?
Prime Minister.
Banging my fist against the table means
Mr.
I'm right.
Speaker,
Rich
what have we
twat.
done in those 12
Rich
years?
twat.
The highest,
Richie
the
rich
highest
twat.
number of new homes started in 15 years. largest number of
12
first-time
of
buyers in
which
20
your
years.
cunts have been in charge, mate.
He talked about 10 years ago.
most-
What do we inherit?
the
lowest
most-
level of house building in a century.
What, after the big boom of house building that we had under
Mr.
the Labour
Speaker,
government? Oh my
would
God,
you
that's quite
believe it?
interesting. We inherited no house
Mr.
building, so we
Speaker,
didn't
the
build
simple
houses
fact
for
is
12
this.
years.
Every year,
12
the age
years.
at which people can buy their first home goes up.
Yeah.
At this rate, under this government, a child born in the UK today wouldn't be able to buy their first home until they're 45. Now,
Well,
I love
2
my
years for
kids,
me.
but I don't want to cooking them dinner in 30 years' time. Now, Mr. Speaker, I've heard he's having a relaunch. Apparently, it's called Operation Get Tough. So how tough is he going to get with his backbenchers who are blocking the new homes this country so badly needs?
Yes, set him against his own
Mr.
people.
Speaker, we're delivering
Set him
record
against
numbers
his
of
own
new
Tory
homes
scum.
under this government. That's what we're
Tories.
doing. He talks about toughness, Mr.
What?
Speaker.
Not answering
He's
the
too
question.
weak to stop dozens of his own MPs joining the picket line.
I'll see. Brought that one out.
So what, if he,
not
if he
stopping
wants
them.
to support, if he wants
doesn't
to
want his
support
funds
those hard-working
bench
families
MPs to go.
and show some leadership, why doesn't he confirm right now that no Labour MPs are going to join those picket lines?
Why not? Why not? Labour MPs have always joined picket
Mr.
lines.
Speaker,
The leaders haven't.
whichever way you slice
Neil
it,
Kinnock
it's
didn't
always
join
the same.
picket lines in the miners'
Whether
strike.
it's private schools, oil giants, or those who don't pay their taxes here, every week he
Hi, Emmy.
hands out cash to
You've
those
missed
that
a
don't
load of
need it.
bollocks coming out of Rishi
Every
Sunak's
week
mouth.
he gets pushed around, and every
He's been
week
tackled
he
on
gets
private
weaker.
schools.
But I can help him with this one. He
And now
doesn't
he's
need to
getting-
do another grubby deal. if he wants to defeat that amendment from his anti-growth backbenchers on national targets for housing, Labour will lend him the votes to do so. Country before party, that's the Labour way. Why doesn't he try it?
Yeah, come on. Come on, answer the fucking question, fucknut. Come on then, chucklehead.
I think...
Fucklehead.
I think we did hear too weak to confirm no one on the picket line.
Too weak.
Mr. Speaker, it's the same old Labour ideas.
You were beaten by a woman who was subsequently beaten by a fucking lettuce! Talk about fucking weakness.
And that's the choice, Mr. Speaker.
You can't get anything through, you shit fragmented party.
Of the country with me.
You're beholden to scumbags who prop up your government, like Dominic fucking Raab. Fucking bully, cheat, ne'er-do-well, scumbag.
This International PSVI conference, the UK again highlighted the need for more action to prevent sexual violence in conflict, with heart-rending accounts of women in Ukraine being brutalised in this way,
you suck,
and
Rishi.
reports that a third of women in conflict zones can be victims. Will the Prime Minister champion with me as his special envoy for freedom of religion or belief the work being undertaken with young people across the world
question that comes
to prevent religion or belief being
Labour's
weaponised,
questions
which can
and
later
SNP
manifest into sexual violence
where
in conflict?
essentially they stand up and say something is bad, isn't it? And the Prime Minister stands up and goes, yes, that bad thing is bad.
Dedicated work in this area.
Usually it's children with cancer, but they've decided to shake it up a bit. These people don't give a fuck about any of this stuff. They don't give a fuck. Sexual violence in fucking conflict, mate. What about sexual violence in the home? What about sexual violence on the fucking streets in this country where only 1% of offenders actually go down for their crime that they've committed? Because we don't believe women. We basically give women half the fucking, right of evidence of that of a man.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the whole House will want to join me in sending prayers and condolences to the wife of Doddy Weir, who sadly passed away at the weekend. The absolute giant of a man, an inspirational figure in Scottish rugby, and someone who raised £8 million for M&D charities over the course of the last 6 years. Our thoughts and prayers are with Cathy, with Hamish, with Angus and with Ben.
Hi, David.
Mr. Speaker, let me wish everyone a happy St Andrew's Day. And those that know anything about St Andrew know that he's not just the patron of Scotland, he's celebrated right across Europe. That is why it is such a sad sight to watch this Prime Minister rammed through a bill that would rip up 4,000 pieces of European law. Laws that protect workers' rights, food standards and environmental protections. And it's an even worse sight watching the leader of the Labour Party desperately trying to out-Brexit the Prime Minister.
He's got a point there, mate. Got a point. He's got a point. He's got a point.
Brexit is now the elephant in the room that neither the Tories or Labour are willing to confront. When will the Prime Minister finally see reality and admit that Brexit is a significant long-term cause of the UK economic crisis?
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I start by joining my honourable friend in offering our condolences to the family and friends of Doddy Weir, and I'd also like to pay tribute to him for his campaign to raise awareness of MND, which has made a big difference. Now, Mr. Speaker, straightforwardly, I was proud to support Brexit. It was the right thing for this country. It allows us to first of all get control of our borders, which is incredibly important.
What the fuck? What the absolute Fouquet?
Actually, about the slight dexterity of the leader of the opposition on these topics of free movement. I don't know.
What the hell? Yeah, you've secured our borders, mate. It's just that thousands of people are pouring in every day. Thousands of contraband goods are pouring in every day. Millions of pounds worth of drugs are streaming in every day. But you know, big clap to you, mate. Big clap. Well done.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Prime Minister for his remarks on Doddy Weir, but once again, what we're seeing over Brexit is better together. We're used to that in Scotland. The problem for both the Prime Minister and the Labour leader is that when it comes to Brexit, even their own voters don't agree with them. The last YouGov poll showed that a record 56% now believe it was wrong to leave the European Union. And that figure is 71% in Scotland. 1 in 5 who actually voted for Brexit have now changed their minds. More and more people across these islands are wise to the fact that make Brexit work is just another stupid slogan. But Scotland can't be stuck with a new Brexit Together coalition of the Tories and Labour. So on this St Andrews Day, can the Prime Minister finally tell people in Scotland the democratic path to escape Westminster control, to deliver independence, so we can get back to the European Union?
Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about democracy and votes. I think the difference between him and I is that I respect the result of referendums. He talks about this. You just remember one thing, Mr. Speaker. We had the fastest vaccine rollout in the world. We had that because of our freedoms after leaving the European Union.
What is if 99% of Scotland want to leave the UK, what is the legal means for them to do so?
Manufacturing remains a key part of the UK economy, and for the West Midlands,
a couple of notes coming in. Was it right for Sunak and Starmer to congratulate England over Wales, given both are in the UK and in DGB? Well, if Wales had won, I'm sure they would have congratulated Wales. So I don't have too much of a problem with that. I'm not watching the football anyway, because Qatar's a fucking bloodbath. SBS controls on imports deferred again. So much for border control. Yeah, from Chattervat.
Where batteries are made. So will the Prime Minister give his support to the bid for a gigafactory in Coventry?
Prime Minister.
I pay tribute to my honourable friend's efforts to progress this project. We're fully committed, Mr. Speaker, to securing investment to grow our electric vehicle supply chain. Now, although he'll know I can't comment on individual commercial negotiations, we did announce in the net zero strategy £350 million of funding in the automotive transformation fund to support the development of that supply chain, and I wish him every success in his bid.
Colin Eastwood.
Yesterday, BBC Northern Ireland announced cuts to programming and jobs at BBC Radio Foyle that, in my view, will leave the station totally unsustainable. The BBC Charter places an obligation on that organisation to allow audiences to fully engage on local issues. This decision, in my view, is a very clear breach of that obligation, leaving licence fee payers outside the Greater Belfast area without proper local programming. Will the Prime Minister act to defend this very important local public broadcasting service?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I believe very strongly in local public broadcasting, and indeed the government has taken steps to support local media. I'd be very happy to look at the specific issues he raises
my horse was first
bring it up with the
until
BBC
the first jump when it fell over.
Angela Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The people of Guildford tell me they want women and girls to feel safe, and I'm delighted to have had some successes in getting lights turned back on, including on Yorkeys Bridge on behalf of concerned students at the University of Surrey. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that even in difficult times we cannot take a single step back from the brilliant work this Conservative government is doing to tackle violence against women and girls?
What work that it's doing? What work?
Mr. Speaker, like
violence against women is higher than ever.
Violence against women and girls and making our streets safer.
You don't making it safer. You've got fucking police officers who have jacked the fucking rippers.
And more CCTV, and indeed the Street Safe Online tool
that's how you
allows
fix
users, including those in her constituency, to
incidents
pinpoint
of rape
locations
that don't
where they
happen
feel
on the
unsafe, so that the
street
local
in the
police
middle of
can take
fucking
appropriate
winter.
action, and I'll continue to support her in her efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Who am I? I'm
The
only
two
Prime Minister of the
boys,
United Kingdom.
16-year-old boys, Charlie Botello and Kiani Sianko, were tragically killed in my constituency of Erith and Thamesmead this weekend. My heart goes out to the families and friends left behind. We really need to come across the House to address and tackle serious youth violence. So can I ask the Prime Minister what he is doing to address knife crime epidemic?
Prime Minister.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her question and join her in expressing my condolences to the family and friends of the two boys. I also read about it. It's an awful tragedy. She rightly asked what we are doing to make our streets safer and stamp out the scourge of night crime. We're boosting the number of police officers, as she'll know, 15,000 on our way to 20,000, and we're also giving them the powers they need to get knives off our streets, including lifting restrictions on stop and search and introducing new court orders to target known knife offenders. I agree with with her. This is something we need to do more on, and she should know that the government will be fully committed to tackling it.
Gordon Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When will my right honourable friend government bring forward any emergency legislation that's needed to deport those migrants who came across the channel illegally in small boats and are now being put up in hotels paid for?
There's no illegal way into a country. There's no illegal way into the country.
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're determined to do whatever it takes to break the business model of people smugglers who are causing the needless loss of life of people across the channel.
Set up a fucking website so refugees can apply for asylum in advance, you cock!
Gives us new powers which we fully intend to use, and we will take further measures.
Then they can get on a plane from wherever they are and fly here. Dickhead!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was sad to see in a video from his Oxford days the future Prime Minister saying he hadn't a single friend who was working class. And he's not likely to make any soon, because while he sits on a personal fortune, he's refusing the reasonable demands of nurses, railway workers and many others forced to take industrial action just to make ends meet. Why doesn't he give them the wage increases they need and fund it by making the rich pay the same rate on unearned income as workers have to pay for their hard graft?
Yes.
And whilst he's at it, why not scrap the non-dumb tax loophole that he's all too familiar with, which is costing the public £3.2 billion?
Because my wife enjoyed it.
Nothing but admiration and gratitude to our nurses for all the work.
Pay 20 grand, don't pay an extra tax.
But Mr. Speaker,
tax bill comes in, it's 5 million because you earn so fucking much every year, or you got so much fucking wealth, and you just go, I'll just pay 20 grand instead.
Now, if that's what the honourable gentleman thinks I'm sure the Labour Party can explain to us how they would pay for
General
that.
strike now, number 3, yes.
On inflation. But I tell you this, Mr. Speaker, if he really wants to support working people, maybe he should get off the picket line and end the strikes.
What? What? They're supporting the strikers?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Giving them more leverage.
The train
and therefore
service
possibly
between
ending it faster?
Wilmslow in my constituency and
Fuck
London
off,
was
McVeigh.
always
You
hourly,
bell, you
direct,
bellend.
and took 1
Fuck
hour
off,
50.
horseface.
Now, you'd be very
an
lucky
embarrassment
if
to
you got a
Liverpool, this
direct
woman.
train.
She went to
And
the posh
the
school.
journey time is double or often double. And that's not restricted to strike days, that's day in, day out.
Yes, because you cunts have been in charge for the last 12 years, and you're fucking useless.
Tell my constituents
Yeah,
what
go
the
on.
government's going to do to sort this out.
Oh, nothing.
And get the
It's going to do
West
nothing,
Coast
Esther, you
service
dickhead.
back to what it used to be.
Esther,
because the
you
service
posh
at the
scouse
moment is
dickhead,
completely
it's going to do nothing. It's going to do nothing. It's going to do nothing.
Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right
HS2,
about the
I think.
unacceptable
I don't
deterioration in the quality of Avanti's
What the poll
service.
saying?
The Transport Secretary is rightly monitoring and holding them to account.
Oh,
There is
right,
a plan
yeah.
to
Holding
increase
them
the
to
number
account.
of trains
Oh.
to the 100 additional drivers, Mr. Speaker, and restoring the full
More
direct
trains.
service to
Actually,
Manchester
no,
and
drivers.
But what
Drivers,
this
more
plan
drivers,
means,
not more
Mr. Speaker,
trains.
and I hope the party opposite
He
support
corrected
it,
himself
is
there.
trade union
Because you can't fit
cooperation.
any more trains on the fucking tracks. We're at capacity. It's all going at different fucking
Thank you,
speeds.
Mr.
So
Speaker.
it's an idiotic way to run a train
I'm sure
network.
members opposite felt a certain sense of deja vu watching the Welsh defence during last night's match. After all, they know what it feels like to have Marcus Rashford run rings round them.
Slam dunk the floor.
Mr. Speaker, off the pitch, Marcus Rashford has been a tireless campaigner on child hunger.
Yes.
So, in the face of fierce Conservative opposition. So, will the Prime Minister, given that he delivered on the pitch last night, will the Prime Minister give him the best thanks possible by delivering free school meals for every child living in poverty?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're supporting almost 2 million children with free school meals.
Every
We
child.
also,
Every
last
child.
year,
That's not what she
invested
asked.
hundreds of millions
Every
of pounds
child.
in the new holiday activity and
Only
food
because you were
programme,
forced to.
which is broadening
Only
that
because you were
support
forced
through
to
the
by a
holidays
professional
for those
footballer.
kids who need it. On top,
You didn't want
of
to do
our work
anything.
to roll out
You wanted to give
breakfast
6
clubs
million
across the
of
country.
taxpayers' money to your own fucking your old private cunt farm.
The
Stroke school.
pandemic has played havoc with school attendance, and the Children's Commissioner says that almost 115,000 children
Love to
are now
see
being
her
home
signature.
educated, a 34% higher than before the pandemic, with little, if any, monitoring of their educational welfare. Even worse, 9 in 10 local authorities believe they have not been able to identify home-educated children. So when will my right honourable friend be bringing forward the register of homeschooled children so they're identified and we can be sure that their needs are looked after and they're not falling through the net?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we support the right of parents to home educate their children, and we know many do well, but however, this is not the case for all, and that's why local authorities must seek to identify those children missing education. We've published guidance on the arrangements they should be following, and indeed make sure that they have oversight of elective home education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. After record payouts last year to shareholders, the Royal Mail recently this year announced huge half-year losses and plans to cut 10,000 jobs, while threatening the cherished universal service obligation, which guarantees a minimum 6-day-a-week letter delivery service in the tradition of the black penny from 1840. Why has his government not yet committed to investigate the mismanagement and cack-handed mismanagement of this iconic British service and protecting its future and loyal postal workers?
Mr. Speaker, again, I have nothing but gratitude and appreciation for the hard work of our postal workers. But when it...
Nothing. Big fat fucking zero from Mishy. The joke Prime Minister beaten by a woman who was subsequently beaten by a lettuce.
That is simply unaffordable
Weak,
for hard-working
uninspiring, posh, out of touch
because in the context that we're in, it is simply not possible to give people the type of pay demands that they are making.
Oh, fuck off.
Thank you,
You had 6 million spare to give to the fucking your old school, didn't you?
We are one of the most flood-prone areas of the country. So whilst I welcome the record £5.4 billion of flood defence funding, can I ask the Prime Minister, ahead of next year's budget, to look at easing the rules around how that money is spent, so more of it can be spent on maintenance, which is so important to keeping my constituents dry?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to look at that for my honourable friend. He's right to highlight the doubling of the investment that this government has put in flood defences, but it's right that we get the mix right between that, and I'll take that away with him.
Royal Mail in private hands. Yeah, I know. It's mad,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The West Midlands Chief Constable has revealed that a vulnerable child was forced to spend 2 days living in a police station during a mental health crisis because the right specialist help could not be found for him. I know more and more young people are unable to access appropriate support for mental health. Will he accept Labour's plans to scrap private school charitable status and use the money to fund a mental health professional in every school?
I'm glad people are picking up on the private school thing.
Mr. Speaker,
I've been raging about it for a long time.
We've already committed to offer all state schools a grant to train a senior mental health lead by the end of this Parliament. Already 6 out of 10 have doing so. There's funding for all of them to have it. In addition to that, we're increasing the support that we give to those with eating disorders, because she's right, mental health does affect young people. This government is backing those people to get the
my
support
mental health is
they need.
affected by you being our Prime Minister, mate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The number of people crossing the Channel is a national emergency. The number of migrants in hotels is a national emergency.
Is it?
Isn't it time we had a Cobra-style committee involving the DWP, DLUC, the Home Office, and led by Number 10 to tackle this crisis?
Mr. Speaker, I share my honourable friend's frustration, and I want to reassure him that we will do whatever it takes to reduce the number of illegal crossings to this country, take any new powers that we need to. I look forward to working with him to ensure we can do that, because this is fundamentally about our sovereignty, Mr. Speaker, and the proper control of our borders. Whilst the Labour Party have tried to oppose every measure we have taken, we will keep going, because
the
we
opposition,
need to make sure that we stop the crossings.
They keep opposing us!
Last week,
the opposition,
government's Regulatory Policy Committee stated that the retained EU law bill is not fit for purpose. The Institute for Directors, the TUC and countless others have urged the government to scrap the bill.
Investment from what level,
and businesses across Scotland have already suffered severe economic damage under this Tory Brexit agenda, and they now see the outlook clouded with even more complexity and uncertainty. If the Prime Minister is serious about protecting the economy and looking after SMEs, Why not do the right thing and scrap this disastrous ideological bill now?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, actually taking advantage of our freedoms is going to drive growth and jobs and prosperity in the United Kingdom. Whether it's in life sciences, whether it's reducing the burdens on data for those SMEs, whether it's in the financial services industry in Scotland.
Little middle-class
we're going to create prosperity across this nation, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we're going to get on and deregulate post-Brexit.
Better invest in some pretty good security over the next few years, because crime is going to go through the fucking roof when people can't afford to feed their own children.
I'm going to come again, Mr. Speaker. My right honourable friend and the Chancellor have rightly pointed out that levelling up is for the whole of the United Kingdom.
Is it?
And as a Southampton man, my right honourable friend will know that since the 1970s, Eastleigh has been promised a much-needed Chickenhall Lane bypass. So will he agree to meet me and Hampshire County Council to finally get this project moving?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's right that we spread opportunity across the country, including in Eastleigh and the South. I understand that it's for Hampshire County Council to bring forward the proposal for the bypass, which I hope they do at the next funding opportunity, and I'll ensure that my honourable friend and the Council have a meeting with the Transport Minister as soon as possible.
Final question on the block.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tory ideology blocked onshore wind development in Scotland for years. Peterhead carbon capture clusters lost out in funding twice and still only classed as a reserve. Pump storage hydro schemes have been blocked because UK government won't discuss a pricing mechanism. If the Prime Minister actually does care about net zero and cares about Scottish jobs, will at least take action to advance Peterhead CCS and pump storage hydro in Scotland?
Mr. Speaker, not only are we supporting in this country carbon capture and storage, hydrogen, offshore wind, all new technologies
offshore wind, not onshore
help us
wind,
get to net zero, all of which will create jobs in Scotland. We're also supporting our transition, Mr. Speaker, and that's good for the Scottish economy, and it's good for Scottish jobs, and something the SNP would do well to support.
That completes Prime
no
Minister's
access to asylum
questions.
other than people traffickers. Well, yeah, exactly. Okay, well that's it then. We just knock off. Hey, and what I will do is I'll grow like what's her name, Alice in Wonderland, magically, and then I'll get back to your comments in a moment. Sorry. So everyone's leaving the house. They are all leaving the house now. Goodbye, fuckers. Goodbye. A succulent Chinese meal. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my backdrop, which is the House of Commons. Okay, there it is. Okay, there you go. Excellent. So there's an urgent question coming in from Angela Rayner. Okay, it's about the update on the appointment on having an independent advisor for Minister's Code. Oh. And someone else is standing up and giving a speech. I thought Michael Gove was the person they need to speak to. Okay, well, they're just lying. Right, so Angela Rayner just asked the question, like, where the fuck is this independent advisor? Fuck nuts. And the reply was, in due course, we're going to deliver. We're going to deliver. Look at all the lovely things that we hope to deliver while we're delivering things with our delivery van, the delivery van that delivers the deliveries. What are we going to deliver? I don't know. The deliveries. We have things to deliver that we are going to deliver at some point in the future. Maybe we'll just knock when we know you're in the bathroom. I thought that would be a good sketch, actually. You know, the delivery people. You could have like a comedy sketch. Someone's probably done this before, but it's like a surveillance van. It's like a surveillance van outside a house, and they've got all cameras around the house set up and bugs, and they're listening there, little headsets on, and they've got little screens there, and they're like, okay, they're going upstairs. They're going upstairs. Okay, okay, right, and they're in the toilet. They're in the toilet. Okay, they've just sat down. Okay, wait. Okay, they've just opened the newspaper. Now, go. And then, like, the Hermes guy comes jumping over the gate and knocks on the door. And then the person on the toilet's like, shit. And then the Hermes guy leaves a little note, or whatever the fuck it's called now. Leaves a little note to say, yeah, I was here, but now I'm gone. I left my name to turn you on. Anyway, yeah, I thought that'd be a good sketch myself. Anyway, moving back to Prime Minister's cunting time. We are now, well, I just want to, what I'll do is I will bring up your lovely chat on my other screen, which has just been being used for Prime Minister's questions, and now it's not being used for Prime Minister's questions. We can have a little discussion. You've got me for the next 10 minutes at least, I'm glad to say. I don't know if you're going to be glad about that, but there we go. Right, okay, and then we just get the pop-out chat. Hurrah! Right, good. It's taking a while to upload. Right, there we go. Yeah, so coming back onto some of the messages that have been left here. Emmy saying, no, that's asking overstretched senior teaching staff to find time and resources to take on the training. We lost so many teachers in schools during the pandemic due to their mental health. Indeed. I mean, like, mental health is the biggest issue, I feel, that's threatening the United Kingdom right now. I mean, the economy is one thing, but it all feeds into this tsunami of poor mental health that so many people are experiencing from all walks of life. And the government are doing fuck all about it. In fact, the government are making a bad situation worse by their fucking cunty little policies that they keep putting in to make it more difficult for people just to live their fucking lives, to run a small business, to be able to live the way they want to live, to be able to buy a house, have some security in their life, financial security. And this is a huge thing for humans, that the lack of security, something that Rishi Sunak will never understand in his wildest dreams, because he's a man who lacks empathy at the best of times. He has no friends who are working class. He will never know what it's like living from paycheck to paycheck. He will never experience poverty. He won't know the stress that it causes having no money. A lot of relationships break down because of money. It's never, obviously there's other things that it can break down over, but the number one reason why things break down between people is money. Is money. It's as simple as that. Why? Not because money is the root of all evil necessarily, but what money does give is a level of comfort, a level of security that stops your brain, basically, prevents your brain to some extent. It stops it from going crazy with stress, with the idea of this fight or flight fucking all the time, because you're constantly in a constant fucking panic. And the lack of services to not just grown-ups, but young people as well. These fuckers, in their first round of austerity, they did things like they got rid of all of the child bereavement services, the counselling services in Liverpool. All of them. They just went, boop, all gone. All absorbed into another fucking body. And when you're talking about someone who's, a child who's kept at a police station for 2 fucking days because they haven't got the right person to come and talk to them because of the lack of skilled individuals in this country. Do you know why that might be? Well, because there was a couple million skilled people in this country and we told them to fuck off back where they came from. So they did. Because if they stayed here, they'd have to pay loads of money and have the constant stress of being deported at any time and a whim of this cunty fucking government. That seems to just be, I don't know. There was a pharmaceutical company that made an amazing antidepressant, amazing stress-relieving fucking pills, and it turned out that they've been bribing this government for the last 12 years to get people on medication because of what they were doing. I wouldn't be surprised. Would you be surprised? Would you be like, oh my God, I couldn't see that coming? I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Why else would they stress people out like this? Why else, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, would the almighty cunt that is Rishi Sunak give £6 million to his old school? Not from his back pocket, although he could well afford it. If you had 700 quid and you gave 6 quid to your old school, that wouldn't be, that wouldn't be any skin off your nose, would it? Eh? 6 quid out of 7. Well, this was 6 million out of the 700 million that fucker's got. It wouldn't be that much for him. And yet he didn't give it from his own fucking money, did he? He gave it from the fucking public fucking purse. Like someone said in the chat, we could have built a fucking school for that. £6 million. I'm sorry to bang on the table, but it just blows my mind that there's anyone out there that isn't fucking utterly exasperated with these motherfuckers in charge and wants to go out and actually just get rid of them by any means necessary as soon as humanly possible. They're like, oh no, we're delivering, we're getting along, we actually doubled the amount that we gave. We gave 1 potato, now we're giving 2 potatoes. It's all good, it's all good. And that fucker, Rishi Sunak, in that Prime Minister's Question Time, he does what his predecessors all did. They don't answer the fucking question. They never answer the question. They never do. If they did, they would sound fucking horrific. If Rishi Sunak responded to Keir Starmer's question about private schools by saying, well, listen, mate, I went to private school. Everyone I hang out with went to private school. Everyone in charge of this country pretty much went to private school. And, you know, that's the way we like it because we don't want oiks like you. And, well, you did go to a private school, but it became private while you were there. So oiks like your shadow chancellor and your shadow deputy, you know, we don't want them going to our, you know, interrupting our elite circles. You know, we run the place. That's what we do. And the oiks, the 93% of the population that go to state schools, can all fuck off and die. You can do the pleb jobs. Do the pleb jobs, plebs. No room for you in the entertainment industry. No room for you in elite sports. No room for you in the City of London or in, you know, the upper echelons of the political system. No room for you on LBC, where over 50% of the fucking presenters on LBC are privately educated. How is that? Like, what? Why aren't they testing for this metric? Because they have to test against disabilities. They have to test against discrimination in terms of gender and also of racial origin. So why not fucking school origin, eh? Why isn't that fucking first and foremost? Any organisation that employs more than, say, 50 people, you've got to say how many of them are privately educated. Simple as that. Then you'll see what a fucking stitch up this is. And then you've got Ian Blackford stands up and he says, his question was this: what is the democratic process? So I'm going to just add a little bit to the beginning of this. Say 99% of Scottish people want to leave the UK. 99% want to leave the UK. What is the democratic way that they can leave the country? Because if it's up to the MPs in Parliament, the vast majority of MPs are English. Doesn't matter what the English think. We didn't ask the French or the Germans or the Spaniards or the Greeks or the Italians what they thought of Brexit. We didn't say, oh, is it okay if we leave? They were like, well, it's your fucking choice. If you're mad enough, yeah, you can go. And with Article 49, was it Article 49 that basically said you can leave at any time? Anytime. We could have another referendum every year until UKIP got the fucking result it wanted. Which is what Nigel Fucktage would have fucking done. And you know it. When he said, oh, you know, if it's 48-52, you know, then you know, I'm not going to give up that. And he meant 48-52. Lost because he thought he was going to, well, he didn't think he was going to lose. He had insider knowledge apparently that he was going to win, allegedly. But, you know, there's a picture of him with the pound tanking and his thumbs up with all his cunt mates are short of the pound. They made a load of fucking money out of Brexit. Still never recovered from what it was back before Brexit reared its ugly fucking misshapen head. Just back into the comments for a moment. Sunak is a slick salesman. He'll sell you an empty box. Will insist you have the deal of the decade. He does come across as a bit of a smug second-hand car salesman, doesn't he? Second-hand Mercedes salesman. That's what he is. Hi, all. Just finished lunch. Missed most of the show. We'll watch what I missed later. Just me and videos. You don't have to. But that's very nice. I don't expect much from the government, but Graham does put on a show. Oh, thank you. Graham needs funding, people. I'm not able to do much at the present. Number 3, you do more than you honestly I mean, it is just incredible the amount that you have supported me over the years now. Over the years, which is just remarkable. Thank you so much. Oh, 20 quid on its way. Thank you, sir. So my afternoon wasn't completely ruined by the Tories because at least I've got 20 quid on my way. Thank you very much. Franco Buni says Sunak and his wife collectively worth roughly 1 billion. Wow, is that much? I thought it was 700 million. Fuck me sideways. Richest MP ever. Yes, and his wife is still making money out of Infosys, which has a subsidiary or part of it based in Moscow, and they haven't left when they're supposed to fucking leave because we're supposed to fucking have fucking sanctions against the fucking cunt who has gone and invaded fucking Ukraine because he's a fucker. The SNP should take the Act of Union to the courts and ask for a judicial review. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Good afternoon, says Asperger's. Good afternoon, says Jacob. Good afternoon. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, that to me is the big question now, is how does Scotland democratically leave the UK? And every time Rishi Sunak has asked that question, he basically says you can't. I mean, you got to read between the lines, but he says you can't. You can't even have a vote to decide whether you want to leave the UK. Because, some idiot in 2014 said this is a once-in-a-lifetime vote. That was never written on the paper. That was never written on the actual referendum itself. It didn't say this is a once-in-a-lifetime vote. So make it count, guys. And also, they were part of the EU then. We pulled them out the EU. England pulled Scotland out of the EU against its will. Okay? So we're not fucking around here. England cannot dominate Scotland by fucking numbers, which is what it does, and then pretend that we're some kind of union of fucking equals when we're quite patently not a union of equals, because Scotland isn't free to leave. Scotland should be free to leave anytime it wants to leave the fucking union, because it entered this union not by force. It entered it freely because it was economically expedient at the time, because the English had done a number on, Let's face facts. Scotland, Mad Monk 33 is going to hate me for saying this. Scotland did a number on itself by trying to set up a failed colony in Panama. Jesus Christ, in Panama, where? Oh, in the Darien Gap. What the fuck? Why do you think there's a gap there, dickheads? Well, the Panamanian Highway won't be built for another 400 years, Graham. Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is there is a gap in the Panamanian Highway in the Darien Gap, because even now, with all the engineering prowess that we have at the moment, you can't build a fucking road across that gap because the jungle is so dense and just difficult. It is a very difficult part of the world. Have some funding. Thank you very much, Just Me and Vince. Thank you. But having said that, okay, Scotland fucked up in its colony, right? And this has happened before, it happened to some colonies, some English colonies didn't fucking work out quite how they wanted it to. But what happened with Scotland was there were refugees who left New Caledonia, this little colony that they set up. 2 ships went over. One went over, the second ship went over, and everyone was fucking dead. And then they were like, oh shit, we'll try and make it work. And they were like, no, let's get out of here. And there were women and children turning up in small boats in places like Jamaica and St. Lucia and St. Vincent and Grenada. And these English colonies of these islands in the Caribbean were told, the English governors were told not to give the Scottish women and children any succour whatsoever. They were told not to even give them a barrel of water. There's a quote for you. Don't give those Scottish people a barrel of water. The ones who've been at sea for 3 weeks, getting over here on a fucking raft. Don't give them anything. Don't even give them fresh water. Fucking English. So Scotland was bankrupt and went, fuck, what are we going to do now? And England said, well, we already share a king who was, 100 years earlier was the king of Scotland before he was the king of England. And they said, oh God, all right then. And then Robbie Burns wrote about it and said, that we were bought and sold for English gold. Well, Scottish people were bought and sold for English gold. But I have my hand disappearing into the bench there. I have a huge affinity for Scotland, and I'm raging at the way my Scottish friends have been treated by the English and the contempt that Westminster, and this isn't just necessarily the Tories, treat the Scottish people in, because you can't hem people into a box. And the mad thing is, like, if you tell someone that they are free to leave, right, then that empowers them. And they think, well, you know what? We'll give it a go. And if I don't like it, I'm just gonna leave, right? If you tell them there is no democratic route to them leaving, although there is no leaving of the business deal, the negotiation, the treaty, the marriage, whatever it is, whatever the contract is between two people, if you tell one of them there is no way out of this without my say-so, that is a tyrannical power dynamic. And that's not fair. It's just simply not fucking fair. And they keep saying, oh, it's a partnership of equals. It's not a partnership of equals if one of them can't leave if it wants to. England could because England's got the fucking numbers of MPs, and it could say, look, we've got more MPs that want to leave the union than want to stay because we've got the numbers. But Scotland's never going to have the numbers because its population is a fraction, is a tenth of the population of England. And that's the tyranny of democracy, when you have the rule of the majority over the minority. And the idea that Scotland can't leave is tyrannical. It is absolutely tyrannical. It is the behaviour of tyrants. It's the behaviour of dictators. It's the behaviour of Vladimir Putin, who turns up in South Ossetia and Abkhazia and says, right, these are mine. Turns up in Crimea, these are mine. Turns up in the fucking Donbass, I'll have half of this. What? Why? Because my country, it's only the biggest country in the world. It needs to be bigger. God damn it. And then he flounces off like a twat, because he is a twat. Anyway, can England vote to get Scotland out of the union, seeing all the right-wing media saying they cost so much, etc., etc., etc.? Yeah, QA Library, that's a really good question. I never got that with Northern Ireland. Like, why was Britain so fucking obsessed with keeping Northern Ireland? I mean, the island of Britain, not the country, the island of Britain. Why was it obsessed with keeping Northern Ireland to itself, with this gerrymandered area of the island of Ireland, when all it did was cost loads of money and loads of fucking headaches and trouble and people fucking died? Like, surely there's not just a moral argument for United Ireland, but a very strong economic argument. The thing is, though, with Scotland, they say that Scotland costs us money, and they talk about this Barnard formula, whatever the fuck it's called, in which for every tax dollar that comes down, tax pounds, I guess, coming down from Scotland, to go back up. And it's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit, because Scotland has most of the natural resources that we have been squandering over the last 40 fucking years since we found oil in the North Sea. We've been just dragging that out and making shareholders on the other side of the fucking planet, who cares, somewhere else, very, very wealthy, instead of investing in a sovereign wealth fund like what they've done in Norway, which is something they could have done in Scotland. They probably would have done it in Scotland, because Scotland's just a bit more community-minded, not so individualistic, not so selfish, not so fucking greedy. Not so pathetic that the only thing that they can think of that makes them better than someone else isn't what they've done or the things they've achieved. No. It's just that I was born in a higher station than you. Ha 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 ha. I win. I was born upper middle class. I was born white. I was born a meat eater. That's the best one for me. People who take the piss out of vegetarians and go, well, I eat meat. And it's like, okay, that's the default. Yeah, well done. Yes, I'm the default setting. Bring it. Look at me, generic human that I am. Whew, good job I'm not different. Is that all you got going for you? Yes, I'm not different. Happy about that. Fuck me sideways. Anyway, wonder when the SNP are going to have an armed wing. I'm not even going to try and pronounce this Welsh wing of independence, paramilitary independence. I think was that kicking around in the 50s? Was that when that was a thing? Let's just say the MAC. Pineapple Boy says lots of things are technically possible, including bridging the Darien Gap, but feasibility don't make things economically viable. Yeah, but the problem is, Pineapple Boy, with infrastructure projects like that, it's just that the terrain is just so unforgiving that you couldn't make it worthwhile. It's the same reason why, if you're traveling around Papua New Guinea, you generally have to take a boat around the coast, and there's no main road. There's no road, actually, from the capital, Port Moresby, to the second city of Leh. There's no fucking road. You've got to take a boat around the coast to get there, because they can build a road, yeah, but because of all the mudslides and the fucking torrential rain and the earthquakes and the volcanoes, and it's not going to last very long, so it's just not economically viable. You may as well just get on the fucking boat and take whatever you need round, which is probably actually better for the environment, I think, than chopping down pristine rainforest, jungle, like you know, what exists in the Darien Gap and in Papua New Guinea. So yeah, I'm not saying that like we couldn't do it. I'm just think that it's economically unfeasible to do it. A bit like building a bridge between Scotland and Northern Ireland, which is one of the fucking stupider ideas that Boris Johnson had. A man of many, many stupid ideas. But yeah, just economically unfeasible. A bit like Brexit, really, which is economically unfeasible. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And no one in the last 12, what was it, 6 years now since the Brexit, 6.5 years? I suppose it's 7 years, because they were talking about having the referendum, weren't they, straight after the 2015 election. So, wow, 7 years. No one has given me a logical answer. And maybe, you know, I'm neurodiverse or something. I don't fucking know. But my brain cannot comprehend something that makes as little sense as Brexit. I just don't get it. And whether it is, yeah, because I don't have the emotional investment in the sovereignty or whatever the fuck that means in my country, or what it is. But if you try and give me a hard, logical answer for Brexit, reason, purpose for Brexit, I should say, no one's been able to do it. No one's going to go, Graham, this is why we're doing it. It's going to make people's lives better. It's going to make trade easier. It's going to make us all richer. It's going to cut down waiting times for operations. You'll be able to see your GP within 24 hours. You'll be able to do all this amazing stuff, traveling around Europe, studying in Europe. You can retire anywhere in Europe, pretty much. All the good countries, anyway. You can't retire in Albania without asking permission, but anywhere else is cool, man. 31 other countries in Europe that you can go and live and work in and retire, build a house, start a fucking business, start a family. Great. You can do that if we Brexit. Oh, hang on. No, that's what we used to be able to do. And that's what the motherfucking cunt load that is Brexit took away from us. And you know, Ian Blackford's right. These politicians don't want to talk about it. Money-saving expert Martin Lewis yesterday, also privately educated, but he's all right. He was before a Commons Select Committee, and they asked him about the impact of Brexit on consumers, and he said, I'm not answering it. It's a political hot potato. I'm not getting involved. Because he doesn't want people not to trust him when he gives them financial advice, essentially. And he feels that if he comes down one side or the other on Brexit, or whether he votes Conservative or Labour or Lib Dem or whoever, or Monster Raving Loony Party, then people who don't vote for that party or hate that party won't listen to him anymore, which is understandable. But he won't even talk about Brexit. And I understand where he's coming from with that. But when it comes to politicians, you know, it's just cowardice. It's just absolute cowardice. And Ian Blackford, I think, was right to bring up the fact that Keir Starmer actually keeps saying he's going to make Brexit work. He's going to make the big lie work. No, you're not, mate. You're just not. It's a bit like saying we're going to make the Titanic work. What? We're going to make it work. Mate, it sunk. It literally sunk 110 years ago. Yeah, but we're going to make it work. It's been at the bottom of the ocean, rotting away, rusting for 110 fucking years. The thing is broken in two. How are you going to make it work? We're going to make it work. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to give you any technical details. We're just going to make Titanic work. But it's already been a monumental failure. It sunk on its maiden voyage. It's in two pieces at the bottom of the fucking Atlantic fucking Ocean, fucking 2 miles down below the surface, and it's rusting away like a motherfucker. What are you going to do with it? We're going to make it work. Wow. Okay, whatever, mate. Anyway, England vote Scotland, yeah. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I'm not sure. They set off a few bombs, blowing up second homes in the 1990s. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh about that, but I'm sure there's a few people in Cornwall who would like to do something like that. As long as no one's in the house at the time, you know. Making a point, isn't it? Emmy says, bridge not possible due to the World War II weapons and dump, and they know it. Every time it's brought up, everyone here just rolls their eyes. Yeah, Emmy, but it was just a ridiculous, out of all the ridiculous ideas that he fucking had, it was the most ridiculous. Do you know what, though? If we put, I don't know, £16 billion towards building a fucking bridge, I think we could probably do it. It'd be shite, like, no one would fucking use it. We wouldn't get much of a return on our investment, but I suppose we could. You know, if we could put man on the moon, if we could make an iPhone. Anyway, Asperger says, speaking of Papua New Guinea, one of its autonomous regions, Bougainville, is set to become, yes, that's the way you pronounce it, is set to become independent in 2027 after a referendum in late 2019 resulted in a 98% vote to separate from PNG. That is absolutely correct. And Asperger's, I'll have you know that in 2027, I do intend to travel from Liverpool down to New Bougainville and actually basically go there without flying. So the plan is, actually I might go from Scotland. I really like the idea, right, of going from Scotland to Singapore on the train. Now we have to wait until fucking whatever's going to happen in Russia over the next couple of years fucking happens. Hopefully when the dust settles from that, and I hope it's not radioactive dust, you can now take a train from Scotland, not the same train, obviously different trains, but you know, you're walkable between the stations. You can take a train all the way from Scotland to Singapore for the first time in history. It's going to be fucking exciting. I'm really excited about it. I want to get on that train, go all the way down to Singapore, get on a boat. I think there's a place called Pulau Batam, is it? Which is just off the coast of Singapore, and it's part of Indonesia. Get a boat over there, then get a boat to Java, and then from Java, get a boat to West Papua. And hopefully that border's still open in Jayapura. I think it closed to foreigners, but it might be open again now. Who knows? And then plonk my way around to Lae in Papua New Guinea, which I mentioned earlier. And from there, I should be able to get a ferry to Bougainville. And then I'm going to come back overland. Yes! So that's going to take me... I want to do it. I want to try and get there in a month. I know that sounds absolutely fucking insane, but I reckon I could do it. I'm going to get there in a month. That's going to be my challenge. I don't think I'll be able to get there and back in a month, but I'll give it a go. As fast as humanly possible. I want to head over to Bougainville and I'm back and just tick it off the list. Tick it off the list, indeed. Okay, where are we? Brexit purpose, sow division in Europe to be less effective as a bloc against climate change, tax evasion, and Russian aggression. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It was a Russian-funded secret ops. And they weren't even that secret about it. They were kind of like bragging about it at one point. And Farage had meetings with the Russian ambassador, which he denied and he lied about because photographic evidence came out that he fucking did. That fucking liar. And we all know how much money... well, we might not know the exact amount, but we know that Russian benefactors have been very generous to the Tory party. And Lebedev, Lord Lebedev, the Lord of Siberia now, he had Michael Gove and up till then Remainer-in-Chief Boris Johnson round to his house, or they went out for a meal or something in January 2016. And would you believe it, a week later, Boris Johnson publishes a piece saying that we should leave the EU. Evangeline Lebedev's father, I think it's Alexander Lebedev is his father, he's a KGB spy who is actually sanctioned individually sanctioned by Canada, which is one of the Five Eyes, one of our secret security service friends. Indeed. Okay, right. Hola Graham, and on the bus to Malaga. Oh, nice one. Hi David. God, is it a bit warmer than it is here? It's fucking freezing here. Asperger says, I say the real purpose of exit was to control immigration, depriving UK citizens of their European movement free rights. EU citizens have only lost access to one country, UK to 30 countries. Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's just to keep people in a box. But this is my point that I was making earlier. Like, if you put someone in a box, it makes them want to leave. You know, if you put someone in a situation, it might be an uncomfortable situation, but the door's open, most humans will be like, okay, well, you know, I'll give it a go, because I can always leave. You shut and lock that door, they're going to start banging on the door, no matter what. Even if you fill the room full of riches and gold, they're going to fucking bang on the door, because it's just human nature to want the option, to be able to leave if you want to. And whether that is in a relationship or a business dealing or whatever, no one likes the idea of being enslaved to another. And that's what Scotland is right now. I'm probably not going to win any friends in the Labour Party by saying this, but yeah, Scotland is at the moment enslaved to England. And there's nothing the Scottish people can do about it. And it's so counterproductive for the unionist cause, because it'll make people in Scotland go, what, I'm not free to leave? Fuck that, and start banging on the door. They would be better off, way better off, back when the SNP started asking for a referendum, to go, okay, we'll have a referendum, just have it straight after fucking COVID or something. It would have been 50-50. You could say, look, we can't have a 52-48 on something constitutionally as huge as breaking apart a country that's existed for over 300 years. I mean, yeah, okay, I get that. Maybe it has to be a supermajority, like what the Brexit referendum should have been. Should have been the supermajority. Should have been 66%. Simple as that. 66% want to leave? Okay, well, you can leave. Scotland should possibly be the same, I think. And I don't think they're there yet. But the fact that that people in Westminster are stopping Scotland from leaving, I think they're just doing more harm than good, to be honest with you. But, I mean, look, I'm happy for Scotland to leave at the moment because of how England has behaved. I've changed my mind entirely, 180 degrees, on what I used to think because, yeah, I think it's horrible what England did to Scotland. It said, stay with us, we're the best of friends, we're all gonna team up and we're all gonna look after each other. And 2 years later, they voted to fuck the Scottish economy for a generation. Because that's what Brexit is. I say a generation, possibly several generations. And don't forget, Scotland can't build onshore wind farms either because it's all under the jurisdiction of Westminster. And so that means effectively we have a moratorium on onshore wind farms. And that includes Scotland, one of the windiest countries in the world. Great. Thanks for that, Westminster. Some good news. The baguette has gained UNESCO recognition after the UN body voted the artisanal know-how and culture of baguette bread on its list of intangible cultural heritage. Yes! Sorry. There's so few things to get excited about these days. I take pleasure where I can. Titanic this year is meant to be the in-service date of a rebuild version 1.1 of the Titanic. It was being built in China. Oh yeah, I read about that. They were building a replica of the Titanic. Would you get on would you go on a cruise on a ship called the Titanic? I wouldn't. I'm not superstitious, but the proposed ascension to the CPTPP. This is about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is for countries around the Pacific. If you'd like to invest in a globe and then have a look at the Pacific, and then you'd have to turn the globe all the way to the other side to see where Britain is. Basically, it's also part of the Scorched Earth policy. Although it seems to have stalled, some members have said they will veto if the Northern Ireland Protocol is not honoured. Well, there you go. The first public consultation on a border poll happened last month, and it sold out our second largest concert hall. We have these now. Now have these happening all over Northern Ireland. Yeah, Emmy. A United Ireland will happen, I believe, will happen before the end of the decade, and independent Scotland. What is left is going to be called Wangland. What is left? And it would just be full of these bitter old fucks who go, oh, we used to have an empire, we used to have a United Kingdom, then the Europeans came and took it all away. Which isn't true, actually. If anyone took away our empire, it was America, who we were on our knees to going, please, can we have a trade deal? Please, can we have a trade deal in Scotland? And America's like, no, fuck off. No one's fucking trade deal with you cunts. Oh, but please, we have a trade. No, you had an amazing trade deal with Europe, like the best trade deal in the entire world with Europe, and then you walked off on it. Yeah, but you had all these fucking opt-outs. You got a rebate from your membership fee. You got more Objective One money than any other state in the fucking union of the European Union, and you still walked away and cost the European Union billions of euros. Because the European Union has had to redirect its trade. It's had to build customs facilities. It's had to build new laws in place to fucking employ people to stamp your fucking passports when you come in. It's had to rejig their airports. It's had to, all over. Just think of the amount, not just the bureaucracy, but the actual bricks and mortar that have had to be put down as a result of Brexit. And the US is looking at us and going, that's what happens when you have a good deal. Wait till you see the deal that we're going to make you sign, dickheads. So yeah, they're not going for it. And I go back to my old thing of like just saying there's fuck all countries in the world that we can get a decent trade deal with. There's fuck all, mate. They're just not worth it. I mean, maybe Mercosur, which is the South American EU, if you want to call it that. Yeah, that'd be worth getting a deal with. But the EU's got one. Canada, the EU's got one. Japan, the EU has got one. Well, what about New Zealand? New Zealand's fucking tiny, and on the other side of the planet, there's nothing that we sell that they want. They want to sell us their land, though. Anyway, back to the comments. I'm going to go. I said I was only going to do another 10 minutes. I'll need a cup of tea. After Scotland, Northern Ireland, possible Wales, what's left of the UK will be like Jabba the Hutt's lair. So Don Donovan, indeed. The old residents of the Beaumont monks. Sorry, I'm such a Star Wars geek. If you look up the betting, most money on Northern Ireland's having a vote in 2024 and being part of the Republic of Ireland 2030. Well, there you go. I'd be about right. End of the decade. Because doesn't the decade not end until the... Do you remember that at the millennium where people were like, it's not really the millennium? And you're like, oh, come on. No, but it's not really the millennium because the real millennium is when it goes from 2000 to 2001. And everyone else is like, oh, don't give a fuck, mate. Literally, the numbers are changing. All the numbers in the date are changing for the first time ever. Literally ever. Since we got that calendar, all the numbers are fucking changing. Well, you're not getting an extra one, are you? Man. Anyway, if you look up the betting, I've had that one. Sad, says number 3. Oh, don't make me sad. What is so special about Scotland leaving that requires a different electoral threshold to the UK leaving the EU? Panel boy, my point is that for the UK to leave the EU should have been a supermajority. Simple as that. Something that monumental. There's such a change to our constitution, change to hundreds of our laws, a change to the way we trade with the world, the way our economy works, everything, the trillions of pounds it's going to cost us. It should have been a supermajority for that much of a seismic event. It wasn't. Which is a disgrace, which is an absolute fucking disgrace. If it had been a supermajority, obviously they wouldn't have got anywhere near the numbers they needed to leave the EU or do something as foolish as leaving the EU. But what I'm saying is that if I was in charge, I would, and I didn't want Scotland to leave, I would say, okay, yeah, you can have your referendum tomorrow, mate, but it's got to be 2/3. Come on, be sensible here. You can either do it and have it 2/3, or we just don't do it at all. Well, no, I couldn't do that. I think it's right that Scotland gets to fucking vote. Like I say, if you lock the door, people bang on it. But yeah, I just think in general for referendums like that, you want a result like what they got in Bougainville, which was 98%, or what they got in the island of Mayotte in Comoros, in the Comoros Isles, where they voted 99% to stay with France, and then they had another vote in the 90s and voted like 94% to stay with France. I mean, that's pretty emphatic. Norway voted 99% to break away from Denmark. I mean, this has happened before. It will happen again. I think that Scotland is going to be going more and more in that direction over the next few years, especially if Westminster say no. Starmer doesn't really inspire me. No, not me either. But do you know what does inspire me? Getting the Tories out of fucking office. I don't want them just to lose the next election. I want them to be destroyed. I want the Tory party to no longer exist. And I would like the ringleaders rounded up and put on trial for their crimes against humanity, i.e. us. Starmer fans claiming Starmer is pro-EU, playing the long game, etc., is either lying or gaslighting us. Yeah, I hate the term long game because that's what everyone told me about Jeremy Corbyn. They said, Graham, he's playing the long game, can't you see? Ha 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 ha. Like they were really clever and I was really stupid because I couldn't see that there was a masterful 4D game of chess going on right there. And it looked to me like a bewildered, old, privately educated cunt, completely out of his depth, dothering around, not really understanding what was happening to him. A bit like... the guy in Being There, the Peter Sellers film, Chauncey Gardner, whatever his name was. It just like some simpleton turns up, Forrest Gump turning up, and being put in charge of a major political party and doesn't really know what he's doing there or why he's there, and he's just happy to be there. Thank you very much. But no, he's playing the long game, Graham. Can't you see he's playing the long game? And you talk about gaslighting. There was a website that was very pro. That was very pro-Corbyn. I've forgotten its name. Was it the London Economic? No, I think that was something else. There was a website that was very, very pro-Corbyn, and they did an article, and it was entitled, "Think Corbyn is unelectable. Think again." And the title of the article got changed. This is gaslighting. It got changed on after the election of 2019 when Corbyn lost, the worst electoral defeat for Labour since 1935. It got changed to "Think Corbyn is unpopular. Think again." They actually changed the headline of the fucking article on the piece. This is something that was shared time and time again by Corbyn's minions. But yeah, I don't share a love of any given politician. I think they're all... they're all just human beings, and some of them are fucking scummy, especially the Tory ones. And I would like Keir Starmer to do better on things that I care passionately about, like the green issues, like getting back into Europe, at least getting back into the single market. I'd like him making noises about UBI and sorting out our railways, but that's something else. Number 3, £5 super chat. Oh, thanks, mate. Fucking hell. Cheers today. Does anyone seriously believe the EU will have the UK back with its current form of democracy? The scum may still get back into power one day. Getting back into the EU is going to be a long process, number 3. But the reality is that most people want to go back into the EU now. Most people see that Brexit was a mistake. And so what will happen is in the next few years, we will have to rejoin the single market somehow. And there'll come a point where the Brexit knobheads start going, but why are we a rule taker and not a rule maker? It's like, well, okay, we could be a rule maker if we re-entered the EU. And look, I don't think the EU will put up too much of a fight. I know this is going to sound really arrogant, especially anyone watching this from the EU, but Britain is still a major economy. And not having Britain as part of the club is a fucking headache on so many levels. It is better to have the awkward one inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in or pissing off everyone in Europe. So I do think that when in 10 years time or whenever, when Britain does come around to its fucking senses and says, okay, we need to rejoin the EU now, when Britain fucking grows up. When Britain grows up, won't that be nice, eh? We stop acting like little fucking babies, little fucking children. Little spoilt little brats, actually, because that sounds like I'm casting aspersions on children. Most children are all right. Little spoilt little brats. That's what we've been acting like for the last 10 years in this country. Little obnoxious, spoilt brats to the rest of the world. Do you know what? We used to be the adults in the room, and now we're an obnoxious, spoilt little brat, and that's what the Brexiteers did to us. That's what they did to us, those fuckers. And I won't rest until I see them all in jail or punished in some way for what they did to this country. For what they did to this continent, for what they did to this world. We've wasted the last 6-7 years on Brexit, on leaving this the most successful trading union in the history of humanity, when we could have been fighting climate change. We could have been leading the way on climate change. And to all those wankers out there, and not you obviously watching this because you're all beautiful and wonderful, those wankers out there go, well, China's not doing anything about it, so why should we? I'd just like to friendly remind them that their hero or heroine, Margaret Thatcher, led the world on the banning of CFCs. She led the world. I don't like Margaret Thatcher in any way, shape or form. I'm from Liverpool, mate. But she could read a scientific paper, which is more than I can say for most of the fucking dickheads in charge of most of the countries in the world at the moment. Unfortunately, we want the UK back. It will take time and a clear commitment, says Just Me in Videos. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think for us to be in a position where we asked to come back, we would have solved a lot of the problems that we have right now. So I think that PR would be, a more fair vote. Look, I want to be clear about this because Richard Tice, who's one of the Brexit Party cunts, he's really for PR. privately educated, of course. Nigel Farage, privately educated, of course. He's all for it as well, which gives me a little bit of pause because I never like to be on the same team as people like that. I would like a system set up that is cleverly designed to keep the extremists out, because the worst thing that could possibly happen is that we bring in PR and the Tories get 45% of the vote and UKIP get 6% of the vote. They team up, the tail wags the dog, and basically that 6% of UKIP, the Tories can't get anything through unless the people from UKIP say so. So you have a tyrannical power fucking struggle, where a minority party has veto, which isn't great. They go more extreme, and they go more towards the Overton window moves even further to the right, which is always a worry. What you want is a system in which it is more attractive to go for the centre parties to go in a coalition with, because you know you'll get more done, and more good things done. And so just saying, we're going to have straight proportional representation, I think it's a bit more complex than that. I think that we need to look at models around the world, see what works, see what doesn't work, and base our system on that. Because first past the post has failed us miserably, and we need to address that fact. But what replaces it needs to be something better. Okay, abolish political parties, says number 3. That's probably a pretty good idea. Get rid of the whip. I mean, you don't have to abolish parties as such, but abolishing the party whip would be a pretty good idea. So each individual MP is therefore free to vote on what they believe their constituents want. That would be a good model. I would go so far as having a look at the Swiss model, where it's very referendum-led. And although, yes, most people don't give a fuck about politics because it's boring, the idea that we can use electronic voting, we can just vote at home on our laptops or our phones, that's appealing to me. And that would be advisory. Nothing that we vote on would ever, suddenly take force of law like Brexit had to for some reason. That would all be advisory, just to test the gauge what the government want to do with the public. And if you had a system like that, we would rejoin the EU tomorrow, because people would want to rejoin the EU, and the government would go, okay, well, a clear majority want to rejoin the EU, so let's rejoin the EU. I mean, you would have things like the windfall taxes, which people on the left and right support. There'll be a clear mandate for it because it's there. At the moment, we have a rudderless, leaderless a Conservative Party with a leader who was beaten by a woman who was subsequently beaten by a lettuce. And that, to me, is like, there's no mandate there. Rishi Sunak hasn't won a general election. His predecessor didn't win a general election. In fact, he lost the leadership election and then was just appointed because the person who won the leadership election was so fucking appalling. And the idea that they can just sort of dust themselves down and just carry on like nothing happened. They cost the economy over £50 billion with that shit that they pulled in September at the mini budget. £50 billion. £50 billion they cost us. They cost our future. And then you had that fucking hunk creep standing up and go, I'm going to be Chancellor of the Exchequer now, and I'm going to make all these tax rises and all these things that are going to happen in 2 years' time after we lose the next election. It's not stupid. They know they're going to lose the next election. Respect the vegetable. Single transferable vote is good. I would like the opportunity to rank parties in preference and leave the ones I hate out. Single transferable vote. That's where you have a 1, 2, 3, 4 system. So you just give numbers to the ones that you want to vote for. So if your first place candidate doesn't get through the second, your vote goes to the second. That would really help things. That would massively help things in this country, because too many times you have a candidate who doesn't get the majority of the votes, maybe only gets 37% of the votes, and fucking wins because the left vote is split between the Lib Dems and Labour. Very frustrating. That wouldn't happen because obviously if I was voting Labour in a constituency where, the Tories will get in if the vote was split 50-50, then I would, the vote for those two parties was split 50-50. I would definitely put a number 2 next to the Lib Dems, definitely. So make sure that, there's my backup choice. If the Labour candidate doesn't win, I definitely want the Lib Dem candidate to win. But yeah, there's quite a few different models, and there's some that like mix up the formula a little bit, because I do like the idea of having a constituency MP that represents their constituency linked to that actual constituency. So it's finding a way that works with PR would be good. But yeah, having party lists. I think the Scottish Parliament does it quite well. Not that the British ever listen to the Scottish in anything, but there you go. All right, so thank you very much. I've actually banged on for a good nearly an hour more than I was planning to. So I'm thank you for sticking with me there while I've gone off on one about certain things. One of the reasons why is that I don't think I'm going to be able to do a show tomorrow night. I'm afraid I normally do a show on Thursday nights around 9 o'clock, but I am going to London in the wee small hours, so I don't know if I'm going to do a show. I might just do a show, but I might not. So I'm getting the overnight megabus to London. I wish I had money. Anyway, you know what though? It's £20 return on the megabus to London from here, right? £20 from Newcastle. £20. That's all it is, right? That to me is reasonable. I mean, it's still a bit much, but it's reasonable. Do you know how much the train is from Newcastle to London? Yeah? £150. £150. That's your super saver return off peak. Fucking madness. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I love you all. Thank you very much for the super chats and the money thrown into my account by Richard. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thanks to all my patrons, my YouTube members, and I will keep you updated on what I'm up to over the weekend. I'm meeting up with a group down in London who are a diverse group of YouTubers and TikTokers. So look out for some photos possibly posted up on my YouTube wall of us going and getting at the camera together. We'll see. Okay, so until next time, I'll say thank you very much for watching, and hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.